wins championships. Or at least it did until Patrick Mahomes showed up. When the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 55, we'll see that old adage put to the test. A potent, dominant defense has long translated into postseason success and has carried several underdogs to the top of the mountain. But after Mahomes came along and mopped the floor with the NFL playoffs best, including the 49ers last year for a ring, the Bucs' powerful, physical defense is the only thing standing in his way to prove that defense still wins championships. Their defense is preparing for one of the biggest tests in NFL history. But if any team can do it, it's these guys. Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, and Ndamukong Suh wreak utter chaos up front. They've generated the second most pressure and the third most sacks, while linebackers Levante David and Devin White fly up and down the field as arguably the most dynamic linebacker duo in the league. This defense is no joke, and further proved it last week when they faced a similar test in Aaron Rodgers and the Packers' #1 scoring offense. Even though Tom Brady threw 3 second-half interceptions, the Bucs defense limited the Packers to 26 points. They bullied Rodgers, sacking him 5 times and created 3 turnovers of their own. But what was really impressive studying the film was their coach's ability to game plan and adjust, which could be what wins them the Super Bowl against the almighty Chiefs. The Bucs defensive coordinator Todd Bowles did an incredible job preparing a plan that would defend the Packers' multifaceted attack. Bowles knew his plan would have to defend essentially everything the Packers had done throughout the entire season, but also knew the Packers would tweak the concepts he had studied on tape. Bowles is one of the best, but offensive guys get paid too, and they're anticipating your adjustments and how you'll answer to what they've shown in the past. Here's an example of a well-schemed concept the Bucs used to counter a play the Packers had scored on the week before. Not only was it designed to stop the concept, but it had answers to several other variations the Packers were going to build in. Here against the Rams in the divisional round, Jalen Ramsey is assigned to cover Davante Adams and mirrors him across the formation. But when Adams races back towards the field, the Rams have to use one of these defensive backs to switch onto Adams and out-leverage him to the flat. It's a good design, because even if they do switch, Ramsey is running at a dead sprint, so MVS sits inside, moving away from the flow of the defense. Well, when you're watching that as a defensive coordinator, you need answers, because you know the Packers are gonna run it again. But therein lies the chess match. Because the Packers know you saw it and will scheme up ways to counter it, they've prepared something a little different. The Bucs' answer is to keep an extra safety back, which makes them a little lighter against the run, and have Carlton Davis motion across with Adams. But when Adams goes back, the Bucs are ready. Their safety switches onto him to out-leverage the flat, and they keep their corner on Allen Lazard if he runs the same little sit route. Not only does this adjustment take care of the play against the Rams, but since the Packers knew there would be a game-planned counter for it, they added a wrinkle of their own. But the Bucs concept still had answers for it. Davis replaces the safety, but still has leverage on Adams outside, so that play is dead. And it should be said, while this episode is about the Bucs adjustments, there wasn't one for Allen Lazard running across to the flat. But due to the Packers' inside run action, as opposed to some sort of fake outside, plus the Bucs' penetration, Lazard can't sift through the clutter. And when Rodgers looks for him and he's not there, points are left on the board. But all of that is for another day. Bowles' ability to create game plans that stop multiple things is critical, but his ability to identify what the offense is doing during the game and make adjustments that might not have been on his play sheet in the first place is what separates him as a coach. If the offense surprises you with something a little different that you didn't prepare for and you can't stop it, they'll run it on repeat until the game is over. The Packers ran several variations of mesh, which is shallow crosses with a sit route up the middle. They called it 2 different times, picking up 31 yards and a touchdown. The crosses can be difficult to defend in man or zone, and oftentimes the sit route will pop open behind them, and early on the Bucs struggle to stop it. On a 3rd and 5 right after the half, in one of the biggest plays of the game, the Packers call what's essentially a screen, and also very similar to mesh, but their running back Aaron Jones fumbled, leading to the Bucs going up 28-10. They knew they had to do something about these mesh concepts to help give their players leverage on the shallow crosses, which are nearly impossible to defend one-on-one. So they played cover 2 man with 2 deep safeties, with a built-in adjustment to help linebacker Devin White one-on-one with Jones. The Packers have Davante Adams right next to him, setting what's basically a pick screen type deal to stop White from covering him. But look what the Bucs do. They have an alert for the opposite side safety to come down with leverage to cover Jones's shallow. This takes the onus off of White to execute a difficult assignment. It's a good call, but the Packers went back to their bench to dial up their own counter adjustment for later in the game. With the Packers now losing by 5 heading into the fourth quarter, the Bucs held them to 2 quick 3-and-outs to maintain their slim lead while Brady was struggling. On the first of those drives, it's a crucial 3rd and 5. Just like the play before, the Packers go back to what's worked throughout the game: mesh. The Bucs had just played cover 2 man, so that's what the Packers were anticipating. They also anticipated the opposite side safety cutting the shallow like he had on the Jones fumble, but Todd Bowles' adjustment shut the play down. The Packers positioned Davante Adams away from the stack. They assume the far safety will again come down for the cross, which would create a one-on-one up top for Davante and the cornerback. But this time, the same side safety, Andrew Adams, who had come off the bench due to injury, brackets Lazard in the shallow and completely cancels out the concept. Bowles knew to be worried about the stacked tight end setting that pick screen for Lazard, but also to be wary of Davante going deep. So they maintain their double on him. Then the moment Lazard goes under, Jamel Dean zones off to replace Adams and the play is dead on arrival. We can see Adams, who was incredibly well prepared for a backup safety, making what's likely a cut call to bracket Lazard. When Rodgers takes his drop, he's looking at the safety to Davante's side expecting him to break on the shallow. Then when he comes back to Lazard, he isn't open at all, and Rodgers gets schmacked. Those adjustments put their defense in a better position to stop the mesh concepts. In one of the most important moments in the game, they were the difference in the fourth quarter. In fact, throughout the season, the Bucs have played by far their best football in the fourth quarter, which speaks to how well they change and shift their game plans as each game wears on. In the first quarter, they are 27th in points allowed, then 15th in the second, 17th in the third, and 1st in the fourth. They allow just 3.8 points. By the final quarter, every adjustment is magnified, and that's why the Bucs dominate. As the Packers drove down the field and into the red zone, Bowles and the defense had to be ready. The Packers are the best red zone offense in the league, and were already 2 of 3 in the red area. To win the game, Bowles needed to dial up his trigonometry level coverages. The Bucs are running cover 7 stubby, which is a man-match quarters coverage. Instead of playing man or zone, it combines the two and defends receivers based on how their routes distribute after the snap. The linebacker's job in most cover 7 packages is to use a wall technique on the number 3 receiver, then sit in zone. Then specifically in stubby, the outside corner plays straight man coverage, while the safety and nickel bracket the 2 and 3 receivers. If both go vertical, it plays out like man, but if one of them goes inside, the wall linebacker is sitting and waiting and the other zone off. It creates exceptionally tight coverage, and shows that Bowles has every answer and adjustment to whatever concept the Packers try and scheme up. One play later on 3rd and 8, right before the Packers kick the infamous field goal, the Bucs call the exact same coverage, so now it's on Matt LaFleur, who fails to make an adjustment. Based on the rules we just talked about, we can see the linebacker wall 3, the corner is in man, and since Adams goes inside and not vertical, the nickel zones off to take the 3 receiver and the linebacker and safety just sit and wait for Adams. Bowles, like all of the best defensive coordinators, has all the tools in his tool bag to counter whatever crazy look the offense is throwing at him. He took everything the Packers had done throughout the year and created a game plan that neutralized their strengths as best as possible, while also providing flexibility during the game to adjust to what they were doing. The Bucs have one of the most dominant defenses in the league and have star power out the wazoo. But now their focus turns to the Chiefs, which will be sketchy to say the least. The 2 things the Bucs pride themselves on, their run defense and diverse blitz-heavy attack, just happen to be the 2 things that don't work well at all against the Chiefs, who hardly ever run the ball and eat the blitz for breakfast. Mahomes absolutely shredded their pressure concepts back in Week 12, throwing for 2 touchdowns, 12 yards per attempt, and a 146 QB rating. The Bucs will essentially have to play left-handed by limiting the amount of blitzes they send and sitting back in coverage. But as we've talked about today, they've proven that their defense is capable of putting together a game plan that maximizes their strengths and can adjust it to however the offense is attacking them. Andy Reid is cooking up some heat for Todd Bowles. There's no doubt about it, but Bowles has some serious firepower at his disposal as well. This epic Super Bowl matchup is being billed as Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. But the real matchup, in my eyes, is Mahomes against this Bucs D. Defense has won championships throughout NFL history, but Mahomes isn't like anything we've seen ever. If anybody is to put a stop to him and return the tide of history back to what we've always known, the defense to restore balance to the universe is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.